Hey, Rye,
What's up?
did you know that half the people that are watching this video right now aren't subscribed?
Whew, that's a lot of Arrow Mage players.
Ugh. What's up, everybody? Circus here, coming at you with this week's Rye report. I'd like to say it's exciting, but is it Rye? Is it?
This week
Maybe?
is fire.
It's fire. Okay. Well, I mean, we're in a meta
Uh,
now, right? I mean, a lot of people want stuff to change all the time, but when it changes, they get upset. When it's the same, they get upset. We've kind
yeah,
of
I mean
settled
we're
into, right?
we're right before the KC Cup April, so it will change. Box should be soon, and then ban list in like 2 months. So it's gonna be boring till then. I'm sorry, chat.
Yeah, people want stuff to change all the time, but if it changes too much, they don't like that. So let's get right into it. I guess the biggest change would be Fire Kings entering the meta, right?
Yeah, so Fire Kings sort of kind of enter the meta. It's more of a meta call because they have a pretty decent Blue Eyes matchup because the deck, at least the one that Grucius won Damage Step with, which is our largest prize pool tournament, and I believe he got second place in MCS, something like that. The whole idea of the deck is it punishes over aggressive decks. So things like Drowning Mirror Force, Unveil and Kyroid, all these things are just there just to punish those aggressive decks.
Mm-hmm.
So Blue Eyes and Automats, those are the two decks that it pretty much targeted. I don't think it's going to be like the next go-to deck because it does lose heavily to things like Necro Valley, things like DD Crow. And we even saw that in yesterday's tournament where there was just Blue Eyes decks that said, you know what? I'm going to start main decking DD Crow. And yeah, every fire is just going to lose.
Yeah, I
From now
saw
on.
that.
So it's definitely entered the meta as like an anti-meta deck.
Hmm.
And potentially, I think it tied for points on the power rankings, making it an unofficial tier 3, but just didn't really like do anything besides
Yeah, it kind of squeaked in at the end there.
yeah. So it's probably going to be tier 3, maybe this time around, but definitely Blue Eye still on top. There's just no question about
So
that.
what do you think? 20 card version versus the 30 card version of Fire Kings?
I personally like the 30 card idea.
Hmm.
Because I just like having a thick deck when you're playing Destiny Draw, and that deck triggers Destiny Draw very easily. And then just getting into the grind game with any of these decks, you'll always pretty much win if you can force a grind game. So I personally like the 30 card version.
All right. So you mentioned Blue Eyes there. They're winning tournaments left and
Yeah.
right now. Is there anything that can stop them besides power creep? Probably not, right? New cards at this point, right?
New cards at this point. Yeah. The thing with Blue Eyes is we even saw Blue Eyes being this amazing when Alternative first came out. Remember you brought up that you think Blue Eyes might become the best deck, and then Desperado just said, "Surprise! I'm actually the best deck." When they put Ally of Justice Quarantine in
Right.
main, and just no one could do anything anymore.
Yep.
So they were already pretty good with Alternative being added to the game for them for free. Um, I think, yeah, the deck just needs to be power crept at this point. It is a deck that's very flexible. Like I said, you can play the Necro Valleys, you can play the DD Crows, you can play the Karma Cuts, you can play the Treacherous Trap Holes. It doesn't really matter as long as you're playing your core of Blue Eyes, Card of Consonance, Sage, and Stone.
Hmm.
Anything else, you can adapt to the meta very, very easily. Um, so it's just it's just going to be hard to defeat that deck without just power creeping it essentially. Because I don't think a lot of people are like, oh, you're nerf Blue Eyes, but it's kind of the mascot of the game. Like
Right.
Kaiba's
Yeah, it's
everywhere
not
when
going
they
anywhere.
yeah, like when they released Duel Links in China, they had Kaiba's face all over buildings and stuff.
Right.
So the chances of it getting a limit, it should get a limit too. It really shouldn't be able to play limit twos, but the chances of that happening just aren't really there. So I would expect, after Worlds, we'll just get like a box that power creeps it, and then we don't see it for a while.
Yeah, I mean, because they're just all over the place. They're just whooping up on everybody. Wasn't yesterday's
Yeah.
tournament a mirror match
It was a
in the
mirror match,
finals?
yeah, and it was literally a mirror match because one of the Blue Eyes players just main decked DD Crow. So every fire he'd come across, the Garunix would just get banished before it could get summoned itself. Other Blue Eyes mirrors, he would just DD Crow on the alternative. I think it was actually in the Rye report where I talked about DD Crow being an underrated card.
Right.
and people really need to start picking it up back in the other format, the Noble Knight Desperado Blue Eyes one. And now people are starting to realize, actually, yeah, this is a really good card. We should probably play it because it literally it counters Blue Eyes, it counters Fires, it can counter Automats with Gaga Head. It can counter, any deck. All these decks are using the graveyard, so it's a good card. People should pick it up.
Yeah, it's a card that came out that everybody expected a lot from, but just never did anything right away. But now the Crow is in town.
It's one of those side deck staples, if you want to call it that.
All right. The deck that we're seeing on screen right now is Thunder Dragons. You want to talk about this one because they have a new side deck, right, or extra deck card.
Yes, them and Automats have Ignar, which came from the new box, the Rika box. Pretty cool card. You use 3 rank 6s, and you basically return all the cards on your opponent's side of the board back to their hand. Pretty cool. Really, really good against Blue Eyes specifically. We saw Automats use it a lot versus Blue Eyes. Where, they go into their Azure Eyes Dragon. Now they have 2 Blue Eyes and Azure, and they cannot be targeted, and they can't be destroyed by card effect. So you make Ignar, you return everything off the board back to the hand and the extra deck, and usually you're OTK, and even if you don't, at that point, you'll probably kill them the following turn, because, unless they have like an Ultimate Dragons ready, they're not going to be beating you at that point. So Ignar is really cool. He's coming in really clutch. We saw the play happen twice this week so far, where it was Automats that went into easier, but Thunder Dragons can go into it as well. They can set up a board. I've seen them do it. Really anything that can make multiple level 6s, but we'll see if he continues being the go-to. I think he will. I think a lot more people will pick him up just to get around that Azure Eyes.
Now, Thunder Dragons, they're stuck in the power rankings at number 3 this week and last week. So where's the deck? Where's the deck at? It just is what it is. I mean, it's a good solid deck, but it's not a top deck kind of thing.
Pretty much. It's just a bricky deck. Funny enough, with Blue Eyes kind of becoming like this turbo beast, Thunder Dragons has just become the brick deck. It's any Lightsworn deck is going to be like that, where you're dependent on your good mills, and if you don't get good mills, then you're dependent on opening God Hand, and Thunder Dragons play a lot of high levels. So if it's not Raiden, if it's not Charge or Light Brigade, tough luck. We literally saw yesterday someone had like 7 cards left in his deck with no levy. He would have, at any moment, if he had a Levianeer, he would have won. Activates Charge Light Brigade, mills 2 of them. Okay, last card in the deck is last Levianeer. Okay, so it's rough out there when you're that bricky, so just consistency is really their issue. Whenever you get God handed by a Thunder Dragon, it feels unfair. It really does. But if you actually load up the deck and just do some practice hand draws, you're like, wow, it's kind of hard to get into those good hands. So
it's kind of like people saying nowadays, Sylvans, full power Sylvans would be broken, and it's like, well, you don't want to leave your deck up to RNG, right? And that's what Thunder Dragons are having to do nowadays.
And especially in this meta. This meta is not RNG whatsoever, right? Automato play basically makes Automats the same deck in 99% of duels. Blue Eyes White Dragon has multiple draw cards, can go all the way down to like 6 cards left on their second turn. We have a bunch of decks in the metagame right now. Waters, they're extremely consistent with multiple divas. All these decks are consistent. So when we have this consistent, which is hilarious because we just nerfed all the consistency skills.
Right.
When you have a meta like that, you can't have a deck be introduced that's inconsistent, because then they'll just look worse than everybody else. So
now you just brought up the 2 XZ's decks, or the 2 hot ones, I guess. Why don't we start with Waters, because that seemed to be like it was going to be the deck of the format, and then Blue Eyes shows up.
Yeah, no, Water is it's just the baseline deck, right? Like it's exactly where Shiranui was when Shiranui was with Witchcrafter and Invoke Neos. Like those decks were clearly better, but you could always go to old reliable Shiranui if you didn't know what to play for the day, right? Like, well, it's kind of like, honey, where do we eat tonight? Oh, well, we could go get some Invoke Neos. You know what though? I want to take it casually. Let's go take some Shiranui. That's where Water is. Let's just go get some casual Waters.
They're the Chili's or the Applebee's.
They're the Chili's and the Applebee's. Yeah. Oh no, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the only thing that countered Blue Eyes with them was the Abyss Dweller, and then Blue Eyes said, you know what? Screw it. I want my Blue Eyes in my hand. I don't even want them in the graveyard anymore. And then after that, Abyss Dweller was just like, well, okay, then I guess I'll die. So that's pretty much it. That's where they are.
I mean, they're not doing too bad tournament wise. I mean, Blue Eyes is still winning everything, but they came in second place in the power rankings last week. But it was
Yeah.
literally like first place was 41 points, second place was 26. So
Yeah. They're just the baseline deck, right? Like
yeah.
to enter the meta, you must be able to beat this deck, and that's pretty much where we're at with them.
Is that kind of the same thing with Automats? They seem to be the worst of the two XZ's decks.
Yeah, I say this I think every week now. It's like Automats in and itself is not a great deck. It's just the skills super broken. The deck is very rigid in what it can do, and if Fire Kings do catch on hard, which I don't think they super will, because I think it's more just Grucius just has a giant brain and had a really good meta call for a big cash prize tournament. Automats are going to suffer the most if Fire Kings come in, because they cannot handle hand traps at all. And they really can't do anything to the graveyard. So if that Garunix gets in there, oh boy, it's going to be a rough time. Yeah.
Well, how many times can they realistically rebuild their board? Because the Garunix comes out, let's say it wipes the board. How many times can they get that board rebuilt? I mean, because Fire Kings, they're just going to grind you out. You want to go to turn 20? I can do turn 20. Can you? You know?
They can't, because they can build their board, and then they can Gaga head to rebuild it if they get a full board wipe. Otherwise, they're going to need like a Gaga coat to revive, or they're going to need to summon like an onomatopoeia and then a go glove. I hate saying these names. Oh my god, I feel like a toddler. Summon from the grave or something like that. So realistically, and then of course, yeah, limited by the extra deck. Only 7 in the extra deck. So once you summon your monsters, that's it. You know. So if Fire Kings catch on, that deck will just I think Automats will they'll pretty much take Automats' spot in the metagame. That being said, it's an OTK deck. OTK decks will always have a place in the metagame, but yeah, you're pretty much seeing them win less and less as time goes on. But I think they've kind of held on to tier 3 for the past couple weeks now, so
yeah,
they've been on the decline even without Fire Kings being fully in the meta. But yeah, whenever I see them versus Fire Kings, it really just feels super one-sided. I never feel like Automats are going to win at any point when it comes to that matchup.
All right, one more I wanted to touch on. Well, I got 2. We'll do one serious one and then one fun one at the end. Stick and Chair Dark Lords. Where are we at with that? It just seems like it's the outlier, right? Everybody says it's such a strong deck. It could be the strongest deck in the format, but it seems like it's just kind of on the outside.
It's super rigid in how you can build that deck. I will say, as much as I hate Dark Lords, I actually don't mind this version of Dark Lords, because they actually can't really do the infinite Dark Lord loop that easily, right? Because you know, like you got to make sure you got to make sure all your top decks are Dark Lord cards, and then you top deck, you know, the chair. It's like, oh, I guess I lose. You know, like time to wrap it up. And it is a more aggressive version of the deck. It really doesn't go long. Usually, you know, they'll go hard with the Ouroboros and then knock you out with the... and then, of course, the level tuning thing is really, really cool as well. Summon 2 Dark Lords with your contact and then go into a spider. Dare I say, I actually kind of enjoy this Dark Lord deck. I'm not going to lie. Listen, I don't have deck PTSD. I'm not afraid to admit it. I like this deck. It's cool.
Get it out of here.
That being said, though, it's not that good. I think it's extremely overhyped. Again, it's one of those decks that if it actually became a serious threat that people had to like worry about, DD Crow, Fiendish Chain, like literally any one of these cards, they can only play one of their trap card. You know what I mean? That gets DD Crow'd, it's over. Right. It's literally just over. Yeah. What are they going to do? You know, that's the entire play style of Dark Lords gone. So
that's their Amazoness Onslaught, right? Back when Onslaught was that one. Yeah.
So you hit that, it's over. You hit Contact, it's over. You Fiendish Chain, it's over. So it's not a threat in my opinion.
All right, one quick one then. A lot of people saying it's the counter to Blue Eyes, Luna Lights. No? Okay. No comment?
Luna Lights is doo-doo. I mean, Luna Lights do well against water, which is kind of why it had a small resurgence, and it lost its biggest counter. It lost 2 big counters. It lost the biggest counter in Desperado, and then they lost the other counter in Noble Knights with Gwynnifer. So people started playing them again, but Luna Lights, it's just Luna Lights will never be like a top-tier deck anymore, as long as things like non-targeting things like Blue Eyes exist, right? Heliopolis, Twin Burst Dragon, take it out. Even water, which they're supposed to counter, as long as the water player isn't super aggressive, they can still technically beat the Lunalight deck. Just, don't exceed early and hope they brick. That's
Right.
really what it comes down to. So,
All right, guys.
Lunalights is like the new player test deck.
Oh, there you go. It's good. It's a good one to start testing. Right, getting into tournaments and testing it out a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I hope these insights will help you with your meta decisions or enjoying the game a little bit more. Right. I always like hearing what's going on in the meta because hopefully you can apply that if you're playing in tournaments or on the ladder. So,
True.
make sure to get in our Discord because it's free. The tournaments are free. The new player help is free. There's lots of good stuff going on in there all the time. So we'd love to see you in there. So we're going to get out of here. I'm Circus. That's Rye.
I'll see you at Applebee's.
We'll see you next time.